Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. How are you all doing? Saturday morning for me here in Phuket. Might be Friday night for some of you. That's not because you're on the other side of a globe. Day and night doesn't prove that we live on the outside of a spinning sphere. Might be difficult to understand that day and night can be the result of the sun moving above a level Earth. But of course, we're taught to perceive that we're on a spherical planet moving around the sun. So I wanted to talk about that argument for models that you often get from the heliocentrists. So let's just see if people are coming in. Hi, Alpha Beta. The plain truth first. Well, it's a toss-up between you and Alpha Beta. But thank you for coming in anyway. Hope you're all doing okay. Oh, shooting the sky clock tonight. Nice one. Okay. Sweet. Good evening, Jess. Hello. Good morning from me. Wide awake. Oh, hey, man. Good to see you. All right. Okay. Wesley. Is that Wesley? Yeah. Yo. Okay. The plain truth. YouTube. Hi. What's happening, Nick? Hope all is well, says Glenn. Good, thanks. Yeah, you know, it's just dealing with people on the channel. It's so difficult to know, isn't it, whether people are just wasting your time or they're genuine. I think sometimes they want to have a debate, but are really not still not open-minded enough. Oh, it's full moon tonight, is it? Okay, wicked. Okay, nice one. What's that? Anita, is that Anita? Anita Blunt? Okay, Anita Blunt. Once you go for that. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Going flat, what is it? Is it, I hope it's not, for all of you, for most of you, I hope it's not just suddenly swapping your belief for another model. Yeah, because, the ice wall thing and all that. I mean, no disrespect to someone like David Weiss, who's really done a lot of work to get people, at least, in a very short time, trying to get people to, when you're talking to people and they're asking you questions, this, that, and the other. So what's this? What's that then? So of course, it's understandable that people want to be satisfied with an answer, because it would appear that we have all the answers. This is the illusion that we're under, isn't it? We're under the delusion and the illusion that scientists have sussed it all out. Oh, hello, Dr. La, sorry. Yeah. And that's the thing that you're dealing with, isn't it? Because if it would appear from when we're very young that all those things, all those questions we have about where are we, what are we doing here, how did we get here, they appear to have been answered to an extent that you can't perceive anything before time, before the dinosaurs, or beyond the solar system, beyond the galaxies. All this stuff, it's infinite. That's something you have to deal with when you're a kid, isn't it? When you start asking those questions, and there are no answers. But so of course there is some sense of solace in the idea that it's all been worked out. So this is the thing: you have people coming along, and what's so convincing about the model, the heliocentric model, being something that's scientific, is because of the predictive nature. The model is made from the predictions that we can make when it comes to looking up where the sun's going to be, where the moon's going to be. Now, I've been watching the sun come up for the last month or so, or I watch it all the time, but basically in the last month or so, it's moved from coming up over kind of directly that way to now it's coming up over there. So every day it moves. These are observations that we can make, and it's very easy to make predictions. You can watch the sun and the moon and the stars for a year, or even a few months, and you can start making predictions about where things will be, when the sun and the moon's paths will cross, and you'll get an eclipse or something. So the predictive nature, that's a science, okay? Yes, that's and that's part of the scientific method, isn't it? This is the issue we're faced with. We are led to believe that the globe is a scientific discovery, but it wasn't. It wasn't a scientific discovery. Yes, making predictions is part of the scientific method, and it's kind of down the list there. So you've made an observation, and you form a hypothesis about that observation, and then you test that observation by making predictions. So of course, if you can make predictions and they become true, say, oh well, the sun and the moon are going to cross. There's going to be an eclipse at such and such a date and such and such a time. Then of course you've made this scientific mathematical prediction. Now you might well have drawn some circles on a piece of paper, but this doesn't make the heliocentric model the model or the most accurate or the most definitive thing. I mean, you hear that a lot. I'm sure you've heard that as well. Oh, but it's the best thing we've got. Well, that doesn't make it true, does it? But it's not the best thing you've got. What happens is I'm trying to make it so I'm not kind of. I see the light keeps coming in and out. What's that, Batman? The problem with FE is no prediction. No, you idiot. That's the whole point. I'm trying to explain here. What are the predictions? The predictions are not made. The predictions are made by looking up in the sky. Everything happens up in the sky. Yeah, the sun, the moon, the stars. It's all happening up there, and it goes. Every day things go too far away for us to see, or we don't see the stars because the sun's out, so we don't see the stars, right? Yeah, that's a ridiculous statement to make. You say the problem with the shape of the Earth and whether the Earth is moving or not makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. Which, as I was explaining, Batman, yeah, anyone can do this. Anyone can watch the sunrise every day and it will move across the sky slightly, and the moon will do the same. And you can make these predictions. It doesn't mean that the Earth is spinning or that it's curved. Yeah? This is a kind of ridiculous argument to get from people like you. Yeah? It's pathetic. It means you have no ability to perceive anything beyond what you've been literally brainwashed and conditioned to believe. And if you're defending that, you're coming along here and defending that, you say, oh, day and night proves the globe. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. The only thing, the prerequisite, if you are going to follow the scientific method, is to discover curvature. Oh, look, there's curvature. And then we start measuring that curvature, and we make predictions about where the curvature we're going to see. We don't see it. No one ever discovered any curvature. No one ever discovered that we're on a globe. The whole idea of the globe spinning in space is, you jump out of space into this, off the Earth into space. Oh, there's no up and down in space. That means that you can stick to the outside of a sphere just because you're imagining it in space where there's no up and down. No, we're talking about being on the Earth. On the Earth, in reality, experiencing reality, understanding how we see reality, how we see parallel lines, how we see level surfaces. Yeah? All right? So the predictive nature of what we see in the sky does not in any way dictate the shape of the Earth or any assumed movement of the Earth. Okay? Do you understand that? Yeah? Good point, James Hawke. Nature works regardless of the model you like. Exactly. The models are based on the predictive nature of nature. Everything happening in the sky. Yeah. So the so-called geocentric model works fine. Yeah. Absolutely fine. Because you're not having to make assumptions about where things are in space. Yeah. So understand this. Anyone who's here, where to start? Yes, Glenn, good shapes are interchangeable. Yes, especially when it comes to geometry. When I first started looking into this, of course, the first thing you do is you go back and so how do we know? How did we discover the Earth is a globe? And if you do a search engine search, most of the time you'll come up with Eratosthenes. Copernicus, the Copernican model thing is kind of back there, but you'll get pages and pages telling you of the Eratosthenes experiment, yeah? And this is almost like a religious story. It's like some bloke 2,000 years ago that we don't have any real record of, yeah? Apparently worked out the circumference of the Earth. Now, what he did, if he did, and what can be done by putting sticks in the ground and looking at their shadows, is that, of course, you can measure, you can calculate the size of a circle, the circumference. We're always talking about the circumference. Eratosthenes didn't measure any curvature. He didn't discover any curvature. Even if he existed, who knows what he actually thought or hypothesized before he did his experiments and made predictions about basically the circumference of a circle. Now you can, okay, let's assume that he did this, and you can do it yourself. You can do this on the table. You can't make a globe hang in space on a tabletop, but you can do the Eratosthenes experiment on a tabletop with a local light source. Do it yourself. Or you can just look at street lights, yeah, and watch how the shadows work. You can do all this in reality, yeah, and you could get the same results. So what was it? I think the points between the distance, whatever, the distance between say Anne at the well and the stick, whatever it was, equated to a fraction of the circle. Was it 0.77? I can't remember. But it's just, yeah, it's just okay. You can draw a circle on paper, and you can have your center, and you can draw some lines, and you can have an angle, and this angle, doesn't matter how big, you make this circle, or what dimensions or things you write on here. I could give it a radius of 10 or a million, yeah? Doesn't matter. It's still going to look the same on paper. It's just a calculation, yeah? So the angle doesn't change. So basically just worked out an angle that represent, as we talked about before with celestial navigation, worked out an angle to represent a certain distance across the, as part of the I didn't necessarily prepare to do this, but as part of the circle, just a slice of the circle. Hence, you've got pi and things like that come into it. Yeah, but this is all about interpretation. Who knows what he was really, but what was he measuring? Okay, he found out the distance of a circle with a certain radius from an assumed center. Now that could have been that could be the center of the North Pole, going outwards, and then you've got a circle above the equator. The sun doing a circle above the equator. Just a minute. I got hi Aidan. You right? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just doing a live one. Okay, just woke up. Yeah. All right. There's food in the kitchen. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Really, this is so simple to understand, or at least anyone with. If you want to claim that you're here with some kind of intelligence and with a pragmatic, open-minded approach to this, as many of you so-called debaters claim, then you should admit and just admit, yeah, that this is all open to interpretation from the thing that the fundamental experiment or measurement that we are given, or calculation that we are given as how did we find out we live on a globe? It's the Eratosthenes experiment. He didn't measure curvature. He calculated a circumference. Yeah. Okay. And it's funny because they teach you this stuff in primary school or secondary school, whenever they teach you. And I have people coming along and telling me this like we didn't know. They just repeat. They just simply, without thinking. And this is the whole point of all of this. Got to start thinking about the stuff that we're told, and not just accepting it as a belief. That also goes for alternative models of the flat Earth. They're handy. Models are handy, and all they do is tell time. So Is it understood now? Is it clear now for people like you, Batman, that are coming here saying, it's been proven for thousands of years that the Earth is a globe? But no, it hasn't been proven. What's common knowledge? What's common knowledge is the stories and the rhetoric that we are constantly told, such as the story about Eratosthenes, and a choice interpretation made based on a presupposed heliocentric model. Okay, is that clear now? Yeah, hi, Uncommon. Hi, good to see you, man. Hi, V. Thomas. Yeah? It should be. We shouldn't have to be telling you this again and again and again. You know, when you ask a question and it's explained to you that you can come up with any model you like, and that doesn't prove anything, then boom, that should be enough. You shouldn't be arguing anymore. You should just be going off and being able to kind of perceive this, you know, opens up a new channel of thinking. That's how it should be if you are really open-minded and seeking the truth. The truth is that we can make any model we like, but we should also know that that doesn't hold any factual basis in it at all. Yeah, I want to just carry on saying what I'm saying without kind of getting too distracted with the chat. It's great to have you chatting with yourselves, but I think this is really important to address. You know, so Eratosthenes never discovered anything apart from a way to calculate and subsequently measure the circumference of a circle that has some relationship to the sun and the earth. Yeah. Okay. And it can just as easily be a sun doing a circle above a level earth. Well, explain how the sun stays up in the air then. Nobody's going to explain that, because how would you explain, you know, you ask a question like that, explain this, explain that. Well, you have to go right back to the beginning of time and have an explanation based on what? Based on mathematical extrapolations or knowledge? None of us have that knowledge. Nobody knows. Nobody has that knowledge. The only knowledge we do have, the truth of the matter is that we are born into a world of illusions and delusions. Yeah? And we feel very insecure when we realize that we don't know where we are. Or you know, what's the purpose? What's the point? Because we have that capacity to think about that. And this is suffering. This is a form of suffering that we are plagued with. Every human is plagued with it. Yeah? It's, you know, I wonder if that's what means born in sin. I don't know. But we're able to, you know, we have these minds that can take us off in all these crazy directions. And you have to understand that everything you think about is a perception. Yeah, it's an illusion. It's your point of view, but it's not necessarily a physical point of view. It's a point because it's based a point of view or seeing based on the way you perceive things. We're all guilty of that. Every single one of us, from the moment we wake up. We live in our own illusional world. We wake up and we might be feeling a bit groggy. Our partner says something, we take it the wrong way, and all of a sudden we got the hump for the rest of the day. But that's just our perception of what the partner said. Yeah. You know, the intentions might not have been there. You know, that happens all the time to every single one of us. None of us are free from that. But what we can do is recognize that, and recognize when we become swayed by our own perceptions. Yeah. So nobody ever discovered curvature. This is a prerequisite. If we were going to assume that we live on a globe, you'd have to first see curvature. All right. But understand this, people like Batman in the comments, if you're still there. Yeah. Understand this, that the Copernican model. Okay. Copernicus, whoever he was, might have been a wonderful mathematician, and he was in there with the priesthood. Smart guy, obviously. But what he did, and you can look this up on Wikipedia, it's not a secret, it's not hidden. I'm not telling you anything that you can't find out yourself. Yeah? That the model is comprised of a bunch of assumptions. Everything had to be assumed. Okay? No one ever discovered that we're on a spherical Earth whizzing around the sun. No one ever. Wasn't a discovery. This is not scientific discovery. It wasn't discovered by looking at the Earth or even navigating across the Earth. Navigating just, again, uses predictions, uses things that you can predict by looking up at the stars, but not by looking at any curvature, not by assuming that you're at some point on a globe. No, navigation was done by your position relative to the stars or the sun or the moon. Yeah? Mostly the sun, really, because it's a bright light in the sky, which we know nothing about. Pointing at the sun and asking for it to shrink in angular size and all that stuff is absolute nonsense. What have you got to compare the sun with? What else do we have to compare the sun with? To say, oh, well, the sun's like this. Nuclear fusion in a reactor that you don't ever see? Yeah? We don't know how it got there, why it's there. Well, it's obviously there it gives life on this earth. Yeah, to us. It's obviously got a purpose. It's got a job to do, just like everything else. Yeah, just like all the plants behind me. They need that, and it's a symbiotic relationship. Yeah, just like the birds with the buffalo, the sun and the plants. They need each other. Yeah, yin yang, however you want to perceive it. But it wasn't an accident, was it? Anyway, off track again. Yeah. The Earth is demonstrably level. It's not curved. And it doesn't look like it moves. Yeah? Whatever's going on up in the sky can be predicted. But we don't know how it all works. And we don't know what the stars are. We don't know what the sun is. We don't really know what the moon is. Of course, we've got a story, and it's believed that 3 men went there in the 60s and had a phone call with Nixon on a landline. Yeah, that's a story, which of course would make you assume that the heliocentrists and their gravitational theories about mass attracting mass are all true, because they did it. They did their little orbits around the Earth, and then they did their slingshot to the moon and round. What a load of old codswallop. What a load of codswallop. So, the Copernican model was not a discovery. It was just, I assume that it was based on this switch to the Gregorian calendar, or a way of solidifying the Gregorian calendar, which is a solar calendar. And again, it doesn't matter which one you follow. Here in Thailand, they follow several calendars because they've got different events. But anything related to the seasons, anything related to nature is done with the lunar calendar. Anything related to business and commerce and global commerce, is done with your heliocentric calendar, the Gregorian calendar. Yeah. So in Thailand now it's the year 25, I can't remember, 64 or something like that, 2564. Yeah. We're a few thousand years ahead of the West there. Yeah. Buddha was here first. Okay. But it's that follows a lunar calendar, and it all works out the same. It still cycles, and this is the thing: how cycles. So how do we represent cycles? Am I making my point clear though? The heliocentric model wasn't a discovery. You had to assume that the Earth is another planet. Why? Because if you put the sun at the center and you keep the Earth as it truly is, as a level Earth, then with your model of the sun in the center, you can't, here's your sun, here's your Earth. If you've got here's our flat Earth, and here's our sun. Of course, you can't create night and day on the Earth if you keep the Earth flat and level in a heliocentric model, can you? You have to then assume that the Earth is a sphere as well, and it's turning, and that gives you day and night. So day and night isn't a proof of anything. Just like everything else is, everyone points at the sky, points at this, points at that, except any measure of curvature doesn't exist. Yeah. So Copernican model was just, you had to assume that the Earth was another planet. So this is one of those things you have to get out of. It takes a lot. It's a lot of effort, actually. It's a lot of effort to get away from that way of thinking. But it's also very frightening because it's something that that's been with us. So it's like a good friend. It's a rock. It's comfort for us, having that sense of, oh, we know where we are. It's really frightening when you suddenly realize you don't know where you are. It's like you can imagine walking through a forest and you're following the trail and it's all, okay, this is fine. But then after a while, you suddenly realize hang on, where am I? And you look around, yeah? That, you can relate to that, can't you? You can relate to that feeling of getting lost somewhere. Not knowing, not having someone tell you which direction you're going. And this is another thing. We're constantly being told, and we've seen this over the past couple of years, with the whole the rollouts of all these ludicrous freedom-crushing things, mandates and what have you. Now, I can also understand in some ways people were doing it because they thought Thailand is a wonderful example. This country is still very much behind all the others, but the measures that are in place are because in a way, they want people to feel confident that they're doing everything they can. Yeah. But strangely, it doesn't come up. People don't want to be bothered by all of that stuff. But I've gone off track again. Sorry about that. But you see what I mean? It's that level of comfort. We know that other people desire a level of comfort. So, and in knowing something, or so that is given to us. Yeah, this model, and it's very difficult to let go of it. Wow. Okay. Wow. I hadn't seen the chat. I'm just scrolling through it now. Yeah. Okay. All right. So again, understand that someone like myself isn't advocating a model, an alternative model. How can I? Because it's understood that we don't know where we are. Yeah. So there is no other model. And again, it's also understood that models are just an interpretation of what we're seeing in the sky. You're trying to put the Earth somewhere. Where's the Earth? Where are we? Trying to answer that question. Where are we in space? Yeah. Okay. And this is the thing, isn't it? Because if you wish I don't have a sphere with me, but we're all very good at imagining spheres, aren't we? Right? So after all of this, and it's funny, I was talking to someone the other day. For a lot of us, we've come to that. We've gone off. That's the thing, you spend ages going off on all these little explanations and so-called evidence of this and that old ships disappearing off the, but they don't actually. You look at it, you research it, and they don't just disappear down a curve. They don't do that. Yeah, things like that, and these idiotic contradictions. Oh, well, ships go down a curve just in front of us, but you can't see the curve until you're really high. Yeah, or why doesn't the sun shrink? Just idiotic. They're just traps. They're just trapping you in a circle of arguments. Yeah. But for some, I'm sure all of us have been through that as well. I know I did. I went through all these things, all these little aspects of it that we're told that point to us being on a globe, and then you realise that that's just a matter of interpretation. That's not proof of anything. And then it's funny because then you start looking at reality without the glasses on, without the goggles, and it's all a lot clearer. And you can sit and watch water. And you can have this amazingly liberating experience because you're seeing in reality everything, just reality debunking the globe and proving by itself that water flows. Water doesn't stick to the outside of a globe. So what happens when you talk about this with a glober is that because we've all been through that. We've all revisited this idea that you're standing on a curved surface. Even that is a point of view that we've never ever seen. Now we're already assuming so much just by looking at someone's side on. A stick man on a sloping surface. Now we always put it like this because that's up for us. But of course it's so. You ask, where does water stop flowing? Oh, but water flows to a lower elevation. Yes, okay. But wherever you're standing on a globe, be it on the North Pole, on the equator, on the South Pole, wherever you're standing, then whatever direction you look in, then the surface or water is supposed to be going down and away from you. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter where you are. Okay. So at what point does water not flow? Because in reality, we see water flowing, and it can't flow forever, can it, if it's on a globe? In fact, if you were on a globe, it means water wouldn't flow. The water's everywhere. The water wouldn't go anywhere. Yeah, there's nowhere. Yeah? And even if you had some water going from a higher elevation, well, then you just consider that further, 100 miles along, which is supposed to be down a curve anyway, then even if you've got something that's even a higher elevation than the starting point, it's still at a lower elevation than you. So, yeah, either way, the water is supposed to carry on flowing, but it can't. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit with reality. It's not reality. Yeah. But of course, what happens when you mention this, when you point this out, is that they suddenly jump into outer space. They stop being on the Earth, and they suddenly start perceiving everything as being in outer. But there's no up and down in space. We're not talking about being in space. We're talking about on the Earth. Yeah. Again, because it's understood. It's very, very clearly understood that you are referring to a model. But the model and reality, you're kind of, and they don't. The heliocentric model doesn't fit with reality at all. Yes, the predictive nature of it, being able to say when we'll see things, it doesn't dictate the shape of the Earth. There isn't any curvature. It doesn't exist. Yeah. What's that? Phuket Word. Anyone with 2 brain cells has worked out the Earth is not moving. Yeah. As I was saying the other day in my car rant, this is the thing, we're taught to think that we're smart because we've been left with these breadcrumbs and we pick them up and we say, it must be a globe. There's no other way that you can imagine it. There's nothing else. And of course, that's the conclusion we've been taught to draw. When really they should be taking you out or asking you, as I was doing with my kids the other day, just with simple maths. What's the difference between a calculation and a measurement? And they understand now that you can draw. Let's just draw. I can draw a container, and I can give it any dimensions I want, and we can do some calculations, and they'll turn out great. So we can calculate angles if you want, we can calculate the length, we can calculate the volume of this, and we could say this box is full of lava, or it's full of rock, or it's full of mercury, or water, or whatever. Yeah, and it will weigh this much because it's got this many this much dimensions. We can perceive anything we like with a little drawing like this, and we can go off in a world of equations. Yeah. Does that mean I have a box? No. Same with the globe. Yeah. There you go. Earth's the globe. See, I've proved it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The polite rebellion. There are 0 observations of curvature. Yeah. So I would love to have proper conversations with the people that come along. They come along and as I said, sometimes they seem to want to really interact, but I'm not going to waste my time interacting just to please you, just so you can You've got to get it. You ask a question, I'll give you an answer, or tell you there is or isn't an explanation, or why we don't. But the rest of it, you have to work out yourself. We all did that. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it pertains to everything. It pertains to everything we do in life. Yeah, you have to realize that a lot of what we do is perception. Everything, in fact, everything, everything. In fact, maybe it's it's even something as simple as discerning the difference between the brain and the mind. The mind isn't in the brain. Yeah, all these ideas it's not necessarily in the brain. The brain is a kind of, maybe it's like a CPU it tells the body what to do and it helps us react. It interprets what we see and hear, and the brain acts as a nerve center, I suppose. Yeah, literally a nerve center for the five senses and our five sense reality. But the thing is, yes, the five sense reality, yes, the things are very tangible, but how we interpret what we feel, what we see, what we hear is something else. That's our mind, and that's not happening in the brain. Yeah, the brain takes in the signals, but the way we interpret everything we receive, or how sensitive we are, I think you'll often find, I'm sorry to say this, but you'll often find that globe believers, or even ardent flat earthers, the really in your face kind of, trying to bash you over the head with the flat earth, not always the kind of people that are sensitive to others, or have, it's just because so this is it. If you can pick up on that, because we're talking about the way people's minds work, we're talking about society, we're talking about culture, we're talking about society, and it's so much more than hard scientific facts. We're talking about interpretation, perceptions, culture, and every culture is vastly different to the other. I was just watching some stuff on the TV. TV news is quite crazy here, because you've got people dying and various reasons, and then you've got people there was something about this fossilized tree being put into a temple, and it's all people are going along and praying to it and things like that. So just stuff, just weird traditional stuff that's going on, but it's very much part of the culture. Yeah. Grand Sack. Good point about magnetism. It's again, I was making this. Here we are on an Earth where magnetism is prevalent. We use it all the time. We use magnetism, and electricity is in the air. It's raining now. There's thunderstorms. Yeah, electricity and magnetism, electromagnetism. There's plasma stuff going on. But all of that's ignored for how things work. Oh, it's gravity. It's a perception of the Earth being a certain mass and attracting everything towards its center. Again, any Tom, Dick, or Harry can draw a circle, yeah, and have it at a certain radius and make it, and then you can draw your angles and things like that. Anyone. It's not that smart. In fact, to be honest, it's really all this is dumb. It's dumbed us down so much, because it's like one answer for everything. Oh, gravity does it. What's moving it in the first place? Oh, a big bang moved everything, and then no, come on. You need movement. I mean, it's obvious that movement is required, because otherwise things stagnate. Yeah, this is intelligently designed, whatever it is. You can call it a big bang. Maybe it was born, maybe things evolved, but there isn't any proof of that. It's a great idea, because we cannot perceive infinity. It's just beyond our capability. So we have to have something finite. Yeah. How can it be infinite? We can't. Yeah. It's beyond us. But here we are, thinking that we've got it all sussed. Yeah. So all of this, all the realizing the Earth is not a spinning globe, and realizing that it is level as we see it. It's just one of these steps in the truth-seeking journey, isn't it? We're all seeking truth, and we're all trying to find out what it's all about. And that's it is very, very frightening. It is very frightening. You come across the flat Earth or not, it doesn't matter, because at some point in your life, you have to discard the old if you want to grow. A snake will shed its skin. A tree will shed, leaves and things. To grow. There is a shedding of the old in order to grow. Yeah, and we become so attached. Maybe this whole thing, maybe this experience is to learn not to be attached, because the one thing that you can guarantee will happen is that you will become attached to life. You're attached, it's just a normal instinct, isn't it? You're attached. Yeah. You'll do anything to survive. Mostly. Yeah, so we're very so we and that goes the possessions, the money, this, that. Yeah, we become attached to the people that we are surrounded with, the pets, all these things, the house we live in, or whatever. Attachments. Maybe the fact that you are born and then die is simply a lesson that, or maybe it's an experience that we couldn't have as a non-physical entity, as a spiritual being or a soul. Maybe when you're in that realm, everything's just glorious, and so, well, how can you have an exciting time? Well, come and be a human. Learn about mortality. Yeah, what's that? Love one another. Yeah, everything comes from imagination, doesn't it? And that's the fantastic. So in that way, we are creators, aren't we? Because you can have an idea, and everything around us is, from the plant pots to a chair and the TV. It's someone had an idea once, and they made it happen. That's the magical thing about all this, is that magical things can happen if you persevere. If you really, your intention is to do this. Who knows whether you were destined to do that, or whether you made a choice, or it's a particular personality type that becomes successful in certain things. If you're going to be a successful business person, you've got to be a bit of a you've got to be a bit mean sometimes, because you can't be taking everyone's problems on board. Otherwise, you just don't get anywhere, do you? You get dragged down. You have to be. Some people will get disappointed. Yeah. Anita, what's that, Anita? No one wants to admit that. Yeah, they got fooled and taken advantage of. Of course, yeah, of course. And again, this is that attachment, isn't it? If you're part of the life experience is learning to let go of that, to not have that attachment, not take it personally. Yeah. What's that, Mr. Garrett? Everything begins with a thought. Yes. Vents out all mess is simply simplified to electrical components, protons, neutrons, and electrons. Okay. You can't see the glow until your eyes are kites, says Thomas. Nice one, B. Thomas. What's that? The polite rebellion. Cosmology has always been a mystery to mankind. I'm not sure we are permitted to know exactly what the Earth is. That's just my thoughts. Totally agree with you, the polite rebellion. And because that's the conclusion I've come to too. It's like we can look at the stars and the simple fact that we can interpret it in many different ways is, to me, it's like a message telling you that actually you don't know. You'll get confused and you'll get led astray, and you'll make assumptions and you'll form beliefs. So it's really telling us what's going on in the sky, is telling us that beware, you've been born into an illusion. Yeah. So is that the point? Is the point to? I mean, I know in the Buddhist texts that's kind of how it is. It just basically says you're born into illusion, and your job is to kind of see that and work it out, and not get swayed by all these illusions. But of course, why would they lie? Well, we know people lie. People lie all the time, and that's the thing. You can watch other people lying. And if you're a compassionate person, the thing is, it's very difficult to relate to that. You know. But it's also very, 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 very difficult to see ourselves as a liar. because we're very often dishonest with ourselves internally. None of this stuff gets said, but stuff goes on in our mind, not in our brain, but in our mind. But that if you look at it, you know you're being dishonest with yourself. We do it all the time, and again, no one is free from that. It doesn't even when you're very enlightened or what have you. It's not that these things don't happen. It's just that you recognize them before they got a chance to take over. You see what I mean? And that's maybe what the training as well is. I remember someone calling this place Dojo Earth. I like that idea because it's like a training ground. You gotta really, you got to understand what's going on in your mind. What's that? TNBN created left and right amino acids need a fully formed system to create. Okay, you're talking to Alpha Beta there. Oops, one addressed to me. Yeah, some things are not meant to be quantified. Good point. Yeah, quantified, of course. Yeah, this is it. We can measure things very accurately, but can you quantify love? Please, Mr. Don't take my ball away. Okay. Yeah. Alpha Beta. Human evolution over millions of years is complete nonsense, and so is primordial soup and universe from nothing. Sure. I mean, again, it's nothing that we can ever prove, is it? I mean, well, just as I was talking about just now, if we know that we can manifest a physical reality from a thought. So it occurs to me that this reality here has come about from a thought. And of course, the whole idea of so it could, in some ways, you could have everything coming from nothing, because, or a thought is nothing physical, really, is it? You can't capture a thought and put it in a bottle. Yeah. So in that sense, because, which is opposite to what we're told, because obviously it's assumed that everything, this physical realm, was created first and existed for billions of years before life took hold, and then at some point gained consciousness, where really it's that's I don't agree with that. I can't prove it either way either. But all right, we can at least consider it as being another way around. We can consider that consciousness was around first, intelligence, something that has a mind, and the mind doesn't have to exist in a body. Yeah, you don't have to, and so this is the thing. The mind is quite likely part of the soul, and it's there. Yeah, it's somewhere. Maybe it doesn't have to be anywhere in particular until it is in our body. But of course, this is where we are. You've got this false premise that you need a body before you need the soul or the mind. Maybe the mind existed before, so maybe the mind created that, just as we can manifest some kind of reality. We can build houses, we can build cars, and this and that. They all started as a perception, or as an idea, as in someone's mind, and they built that. So this, the seeds, the plants, the cycle, the things that get eaten and die. I mean, this seems to be something that you'd have to design it, and it would take a lot of thought, and it might take a few million years just to kind of get it right. Yeah, but hey, if you're living in an infinite realm of consciousness, then a million years is just that. Anyway, I hope that's all we know. Yeah, nice one. Wide awake. All we need is love. All we need, when everyone helps everybody, life would be sweet with ourselves or the parasites. So definitely could. That's a really positive note to end it on, actually, I think, wide awake, because yeah, shit happens. It really does. There's some crazy stuff. There's mean people. There's psychopaths in this world, and there's people that will always take advantage of you. People lie. Yeah, but at the same time, we can also live together, and if we all make the effort to do that, it all just works out. We focus on being a real community. Yeah. All right. Oh, hello, Earth. I was just about to sign off now. So I kind of had my rant, yeah. So yeah, it was never a discovery that the Earth was a globe. All that was discovered was a way to interpret, or to put the sun at the center, and then justify night and day by assuming that the Earth is a globe. It's just essential. But there is much more to life than arguing about models. Okay, so with that, I'll bid you farewell, and we'll catch up soon. Have yourself a good weekend. Yeah. Thank you very much.